All right, Michael Sky here with Hans Kamain.
No.
We're having a conversation about compromise and self-leadership. Hans, you're leading a course for men who want to be greater men or great men. And so I'm just going to share some things about compromise and self-leadership. If you think of a man who's always, let's say he's with his mother and he's with his mother. She wants him to do this. He wants to do something else. And he finds some kind of compromise, some kind of way to keep his mother happy while also not doing fully what he wants, but kind of the middle road there. And then he's with his girlfriend, and it's the same thing.
Yes.
He's with his friends, and it's the same thing. And he's never living out and creating this world or this life that he desires, but it's always some kind of place in the middle.
And everybody loses.
Everybody loses, right? We've all been in the situation with friends. You go out to watch the movies. Your friends maybe want to see this, you want to see this. And then as a compromise, you all watch something that no one wanted to watch.
Exactly.
You know?
When I give the example with a guy, we gave a talk, or I gave it, my area of focus is seduction and relationships. And but often when I work on this, guys instantly see how we talk about leadership, leading the interaction, how they have to lead themselves first. And so then the issues of compromise, responsibility all come in. The example that I often give is a guy, I was giving a talk, and he said, it's easy for you to talk to many women and have girlfriends, but I cannot do it. I would like to have many women, but I'm married and I can't do it. And the moment he said that, I realized that he's having a compromise, and that everybody loses. This is for me the main thing in the compromise. Not only do you lose, but everybody loses, because he's married and he's thinking he would like to have the affair or have another girlfriend, but he's not choosing. He's choosing the family. Not really choosing. He's compromising for the family, and so his wife is going to feel that. His kids are going to feel it. And the potential lover is going to feel it, which means everybody loses. He's not choosing really, he's compromising. And so that's the example in my area of love and relationships. But you talked a lot more about compromise, and I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, so let's talk for a moment about the difference between compromise and sacrifice.
Yes.
What I found in my work is this inner force of guidance I call honor, which is like this inner compass from the heart. It's such a big value that when we, what I've found is like, because you have all your values, right? That guy, maybe he wants a family, he wants a happy family, he wants another woman in his life.
Yes.
He's got many values. He wants peace,
adventure,
right? And so he's finding some kind of medium there.
Yes.
Honor is such a big value that it could be that he chooses to have the other girlfriend.
Yes.
But he feels really bad about it, loses his honor, maybe loses his family and the girl in the process too.
Yes.
So he could have the other girl or not have the other girl and experience compromise.
Yes.
In other words, he's suffering, he's lost his honor. And the same thing, he could potentially not have the girl and have his honor, or have the other girl and have his honor.
Yes.
And this would not be a compromise.
Exactly.
So honor is such a big value. It's like our number one, is how I see it. Our honor is our number one value. And if we're doing in such a thing that we lose our honor, we're doing life in such a way that we lose our honor, it's a compromise. So, but to distinguish it from a sacrifice, what would you say the difference is between compromise and a sacrifice?
Well, if the guy, to me, is the difference is awareness, choosing, and know that you have chosen. Which means that you look at the situation and you say, "Wow, I want my family, I want adventure, and I see I cannot have both. So what I'm going to choose, and whatever choice he makes, as long as it's deliberate and considerate, it's going to be a good choice. And people are going to win. He's going to win. The person who's with him is going to win, and potentially also the person who's not with him is going to win, because they know and they see that he has chosen in line with his values. So if this guy chooses the family and say, I sacrifice the girl, even though I would like to, I'm sacrificing that for for me the more important value now of the family. Or he says, I have my family, but I'm going to choose the adventure. I'm going to choose the lover because the sense of adventure right now is a higher value to me, and I sacrifice the family. Even that will be a lot more powerful than him sitting in the family and not really choosing and wishing and hoping that he would be with the lover as well. That's how I see it.
And suffering.
And suffering.
And over time resenting himself
Yes.
and losing respect for himself.
Yes.
And I find that how we do our various choices in life is how we do, maybe not all of our choices, but many of our other choices. So if you're compromising in one big area of life, it's likely you're compromising in a lot of areas of life, and in little ways as well. Well, let's come back to the difference between compromise and sacrifice. You could say that both of them are giving up something, but when you compromise, you're ultimately losing. So I use, to explain this, I use an example of American baseball. And there's something called a sacrifice fly. This is when there's a runner on base,
Right.
and a guy hits it up in the air, knowing it's likely going to be caught. So he's going to get out. He's not going to get to base. But the other guy will be able to score, which means his team can get ahead. And so if winning is a bigger value than getting your stats up and getting on base, then it's you're sacrificing getting out so that your team can win.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're losing, but overall your values are being advanced. Your most important values are being advanced.
Can I ask something? As we discuss this, what I'm seeing clearly now is maybe, or a big part of the difference between a compromise and a sacrifice is the awareness and is the taking of responsibility, which means you make a choice. And I didn't think of this before, but I see this clearly now. As long as you take full responsibility, it can be a sacrifice and it can be very fulfilling. If you do not take full responsibility, like the guy says, I'm with my family, but I would like that and I can't. I'm trapped. It's like he is not taking full responsibility for the situation that he's in. Therefore, it's a compromise.
And he gets no honor. He gets no pride. He gets no self-respect. All these major values.
Yes.
And no sense of freedom or power. All these fundamental values to a man are lost by not powerfully choosing. So he could, if he sacrifice, he really wants an affair, let's say. But if he's really clear, who I am for my family is the one who is going to be an example of a committed father and husband, even in this world where it's not common anymore, so that my children can live happy lives, or whatever it is, then he can have that sense of honor.
Yes.
He's clear on his path, and he's sacrificing something important for something that he's making even more important. There's something about a sacrifice that when you make a sacrifice, it's actually a way of, maybe you don't even know what's more important.
Yes.
But by sacrificing one important thing to another, you're actually saying this is more important.
Yes.
And it's a way of actually making it more
Yes.
important, treasuring it.
Yeah. And shaping your values.
Yeah. So whereas a compromise is often something that is not conscious. It's a lower level of consciousness.
That's yes.
And we compromise every day with ourself. So it's as if there's these two parts of ourself. For example, there's the self that yesterday said you would run, and this morning doesn't feel like it, right? And so then and we've conditioned ourselves to automatically compromise in the face of this dichotomy, these two parts of ourself. This is inherently stressful. Two parts of ourself were divided against ourselves, right? And the longer we stay in indecision, the more suffering that there is for us. And naturally, our body, our mind, our consciousness wants to come back to homeostasis, which you could call comfort or the comfort zone, right? And the easiest way to do that for a lot of us tends to be to simply do what we feel like doing, right? Do the one that we feel like doing now, and then rationalize it, make it okay by saying something that's kind of true. So, for example, it's cold outside today. I've been working hard this week. I'll start tomorrow. If it's cold outside, I have been working hard, and I really do intend to start tomorrow, then I don't feel bad going against what I promised myself yesterday. I have a way out. So I'm avoiding feeling guilty by giving up my value, and I'm back in comfort zone. Right? But ultimately, if what I want is to be a man who follows through on my word, who has his fitness, everything else, and can trust myself, then it's a compromise. And this is something that my inner conflict diagram makes really, really clear in a way that's difficult to make clear just talking about it. The inner conflict diagram just shows how it works and how it's working in all areas of your life. And what happens over long term, let's say that you want to start running, but you keep failing at it. Then the next thing that we'll do as a compromise solution is we'll make up a belief that says, I'm not a runner. Usually it's a belief about ourselves or about reality. And we'll just choose to settle on it. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a runner. Runners are gay, whatever, right? To make it okay to never actually have to even think about this again. You've written off running for your future. And we can do this with our dreams. When we're younger, we can say, there was a dream I had for years. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to date beautiful women from foreign cultures. And not doing it for years, I could have just said, it's not that important to me, or the only guys who do that are guys who are not serious or responsible.
I was stupid dreaming that back then. I didn't know what I know now.
Yeah, many things. It's not possible, right? And so you develop beliefs that then make it okay to not even realize anymore that you're compromising because you've written off that dream that maybe deep in your heart is actually still a dream. So you're leading a course right now. We're asking guys about what's their biggest compromise. And this can be a difficult thing to put your finger on.
Yes.
Because you might have established those beliefs that cover up these deeper dreams and values. That's one reason why it can be difficult to actually determine, what's my biggest compromise.
Yes. Because if we would know it, we probably wouldn't do it.
If we're really clear on what our values really are and our dreams really are,
we wouldn't compromise.
In the moment, we would act on it.
Yeah.
It's what I call being awake. When you're so clear about your values and their importance to you that you just naturally act in line with them. Most of the time we're asleep, and most of the time what puts us to sleep is our own narrations. The things that we tell ourselves automatically so that we don't have to feel the discomfort of having to choose, to consciously choose something and take action.
So a better question than what is your biggest compromise would be, what are your greatest values and dreams?
And I think another thing to talk about is what are our natural values? If you don't value X really highly, you're going to suffer. And I would say honor. To me, honor is it's fundamental. So honor is this good feeling you have in your body and your heart, a strong and peaceful feeling when you act in line with your values, when you stand up for your people, when you, just that. And so to have this feeling as a barometer in your life that lets you know when you're off track and when you're on track is so fundamental to having long-term happiness, self-esteem, confidence, to knowing yourself as a leader. If you don't have this, it's so easy to it can be so easy to really get off track if you have no compass, if you don't have this relationship with this good feeling inside. It's hard to know when you're going away from it or moving closer to it. And so for me, like honor is fundamental.
Yes.
And I would also say self-honesty.
Very closely related. I would like to ask you about this, about honor, because it's such a great feeling, you know, and it's a guiding principle for me too. Why is it so easy to forget about it? Why do we, this is my interpretation of it, why are so few of man's actions today guided by honor? And why do we have to like learn to feel it again in a way?
Well, I would say with many feelings, any emotion is uncomfortable. It's moving you out of homeostasis. It's moving you out of comfort, right? So even feeling too much pleasure can be uncomfortable. You know, you want to kind of way back down from that, right? So the fact that we keep coming back to comfort, I don't think it's a surprise. But honor can also have you act in ways that are risky, right? Where you might sacrifice something. I mean, feel enough honor and you might give up your life for your family. You might give up your life or your reputation for a cause you believe in. So it also comes with some serious risk. You might give up things that are fun or pleasurable for something that's more important. But I think another answer to that question is we're not born into it with rituals and tradition and stuff that would normally generate these feelings. Because, you know, for me growing up, honor was something that, and to me it's like a spiritual feeling, right? So, you know, when I talk about honor, my father would say that's the Holy Spirit. But I've come to know the feeling as something that's natural for human beings, like it's inherently there, like it's like as a gift inside of us that lets us know we're on the right path. And no one religion owns it, right? So, but I grew up with a lot of rituals, traditions, a structure of our life where we kept coming back to this feeling, and we were actually trained to use it as a guiding force in our life, to notice when are we feeling it. And you know, when we pray, which is, I view pray as a moment of self-honesty. It's basically you're having a conversation with a being who knows everything, can see everything. You can't lie to God, right? And so it's a moment of quietness, reflection, and self-honesty. And the exercise was, or the teaching was, you know, when you're having these questions, you're asking God for guidance. You're paying attention. You're getting the response of an affirmative response, a yes response to do this or not do this. An affirmative response is this good feeling in your heart, this good and peaceful feeling in your heart. And so it was actually part of, you know, my training growing up. And I think for a lot of us, we just have no, like that's missing. And we actually get trained, a lot of our training by external authorities, whether it's our parents or our teachers, government, police, these external figures who have an idea of what's good and right. The moments when our values conflict with theirs, we're trained that, wait, we're disobeying, we're breaking the rules if we don't line up, if our actions don't line up with what they say is good. So we're actually punished,
disciplined,
when there's that conflict between what we believe is good and what they say is good. So we're programmed to compromise from the moment that we're small. We're not programmed to check inside with what's right for us, with what's right and what our values are, and to act in line with that. I mean, I got a fair amount of that training. My parents, and my father would actually give me father's blessings where he laid his hands on my head before the school year starts. Knowing that, believing that, he's sending me into foreign territory with principals and teachers and people who have different belief systems and don't have the same values, and a fundamental distrust of the public education system, saying like, you know, Michael, I bless you that you can know right from wrong, and that you listen for God's instruction, and you do what's right. So it's very interesting reflecting back on it now, but it was really powerful. It's what I would call, actually, in a way, greatness training instead of goodness training, right? Like, in the face of a society that says this is good, but everything inside of you and your values say something else, goodness might be going along with what society says is good, or an external authority. Greatness is in the face of that, and society and everyone else rebuking you and shaming you, and fear and risk and whatever else. You walk that road less traveled, and that's how we identify people we call as great. Someone who walked the path of their own inner guidance in the face of what everyone else said. So it's a lot of my work is about it's greatness training, not goodness training. Concept and tools and
coming back
exercises, skills for greatness.
What I hear so far is that we're trained through discipline and punishment to compromise, and then so many of us come at a point where we no longer see it. We no longer see that we have compromised. We don't even really realize or have forgotten about our
and our main barometer becomes, what is authority going to think if I do this?
Yes.
What are my peers and society
going to think? What is that girl going to think?
That's the main check of my actions, instead of in here.
Yes.
And so after a lifetime of the punishment and reward, right? Because it's not just punishment, it's reward.
Yes.
There's the false rewards that parents, religious leaders, teachers, police, government, a boss at work, right? It's not just the punishment, it's the reward.
The girl.
Yeah. And then you get into a relationship with a woman, right? Who would like to train you to give you everything that she wants, domesticate you, right?
Yes.
I mean, what's a domesticated animal? Really, what's a domesticated animal? It's an animal that is no longer acting in line with its instincts, its natural inner guidance. Yeah. It's acting in line with the punishment and rewards it's receiving, and it's from its external environment.
Yes.
And it's acting in such a way that where it's not acting on its instinct, it's being a good cow, donkey, horse, dog. Whatever.
All right.
So who do you want to be in a relationship? Do you want to be the good husband, or do you want to be a great man?
Yeah.
And a leader, and a self-leader. And it's sometimes, depending on the action, it's the same thing.
Yes.
Right? But sometimes it's not. And I think what a lot of young men see when they look around at the world today, because I know for myself, I grew up with stories of great men in our religion. Like, we were steeped in these stories, these legendary men who, I mean, the Mormon religion is a story of one guy having a vision, 14 years old, starting this whole religion. And in the face of being kicked out of one state and then the next, chased by mobs, even tarred and feathered, they stripped of their clothes, pouring hot tar on them and then feathers on them, humiliating them in great pain, right? In the face of so much, they stayed true to their vision. He was even he was even killed for staying true to his vision. And they stayed on that path. The next prophet, Brigham Young, took the people all the way to Utah. This was like through Comanche territory, wild Indian territory, cowboys and Indians, And my great-great-great-grandfather was among them, went to this foreign land, and they made it their home. Fought with the Indians, even fought with the U.S. government. So I grew up with these stories, the stories of my ancestors who originally came to America at a time when there was no planes, trains, or anything. You're getting on some boat for months. 25% of people die. They don't even make it to come to the New World. And those stories, as well as stories of in the Book of Mormon, it says it's similar stories of heroic men following God's guidance, their visions. These are the time when, creating these some kind of seaworthy vessels by God's instruction, vessels that didn't even exist at the time, going into the ocean. Who knows if they're going to fall off the end of the world, off the end of the earth somewhere. You know, at the time, the earth is flat. They end up in the Americas. They fight with the Native Americans. They establish a whole new civilization. These are the stories I grew up in, you know. And then there's Hollywood movies, right? Which are all about the hero, the cowboys, you know. A lot of if you watch American movies, a lot of the heroes are actually defying society. They're disobeying what everyone else is doing to follow their own vision. So it's fundamental to this heroic Hollywood narrative and the happy ending, which I know like in Europe a lot, the Hollywood movies are laughed at a bit because it's always the happy ending and the hero. But there's something really powerful about it, especially for the human spirit, because that's our challenge. Yeah. Living in a world that would have us go this way and actually following our own vision and going and inner guidance and going the way that says.
So would it for a guy who even has difficulty describing the compromise that he's living in, would it be a better exercise than to say what's the biggest compromise you're living in today? Would it be a better exercise to ask him again about what his vision is, what his values are, when is it that he feels honor? Also, when is it that he feels desire? And really go back to the animal instinct, you know, in human terms then. Like what it is right here that is really important to you and you can feel it, you know. What is your strong desire? What is your strong honor? What are your values, you know? And to describe that again until you feel it that strong that you see the compromise that you're living in right now.
No, there's a lot of things to say about that. Another, you know, if you're going to walk this path, if you want to live a great life and be a great man and leader, you have to also value courage and make it a way of life, right? Because you have to have courage to seriously face this question of what are my biggest compromises in life, because it's going to ask something heroic of you.
Exactly.
It's going to ask you to face what you haven't been facing and take the action you haven't been taking. And that's scary, and a lot of us would rather lie to ourselves than do it. We don't actually want to look at that, what's calling us to greatness over here. You know, I remember watching a movie that was had the potential to really be a great movie, and it was a Hollywood blockbuster. But it was called Armageddon. This asteroid is barreling towards the Earth. It's going to destroy all of the world as we know it, all of human civilization. And the only chance is if we can get on a spaceship, go out there, meet the rocket, get up on it, blow it up from the inside.
Fly into it.
And so they find some oilmen, to do this. They get together with these NASA astronauts who can fly them out there, but then these oil riggers, the guys who do this work, and these are just guys, men's men. You know, they're tough, they're hardworking, foul language, and they're also presented as goofballs and idiots, and you know they can't do anything right, and they end up saving humanity. And then the NASA astronauts, the men who have discipline, intellect, commitment,
the good men,
great men,
yes,
you know, who've made a lot of sacrifices, are shown to be the ones who would have had civilization die. Like in the end, it's this conflict between them. Which there could also be something to be said there about acting on your own instincts, as the oilmen might have, you know. But the way the movie played out, they just made them idiots. It was idiocracy that saved civilization. And I was frustrated, but I get it. I get why they dumbed down the movie. It's so more people watching it feel comfortable. Because to be in the presence of greatness is not comfortable. Especially if you think back on your life and you realize, I could have walked such a path, but I chose not to. It's uncomfortable to be around people who are really choosing at a next level of responsibility from you.
I hope that when you're watching this, you feel a nagging sensation of, fuck, there's something... I've been thinking about me also, you know, but I hope anyone can, like, if you get a nagging sensation, you're on the right path, you know.
Well, so to come back to this question of, like, asking men to, like, what is your biggest compromise? Another great place to start with could be to look to who are your heroes? Who are the great men who you aspire to be like, or who you did when you were younger? Right? Who are those great men? And really get present to the choices they made in the life that they lived. I have an exercise, I call it the hero exercise. It's in my Visionary Mind program. And it has you really on a feeling level, really get present to what it is about them. Like, what is everything that they faced and had to feel, and what do they stand for, in such a way that you presence profound, deep honor just in contemplating them. And this honor then can inspire you to face everything that they faced. But as you begin to get present to who these great men are, then maybe think about men who didn't make the same choices, maybe men in your everyday life. And think about who you really want to be. And if this path of greatness is what you want, from that example, look to your daily life. Are you on that path? If not, what are your actions? What are you doing that's compromising yourself? And we were talking earlier, and for me, there's two big things that stand out for me right now in my life. And one is my financial life. Like, I've just had the most powerful financial year of my life. But for the last month and a half, I've wanted to kind of be done with that business and go start another one. And I haven't wanted to deal with anything financial. So I haven't been paying attention to expenses. I've been spending wildly. I haven't wanted to deal with taxes. I haven't been focused on generating income. And it's probably cost me a lot of money just in the last 2 months alone, an insane amount of money. So that's a big compromise for me. And this is something where it's like the priority of your values is going to change from year to year, month to month.
Like the law is formed case by case, it just is carved over time.
Yeah. And so, you might be really dedicated to your profession, and then your mother enters the hospital, right? And you might feel like you were being a pretty good son before, so that wasn't really your highest value. But when your mom's about to die in the hospital and you have your career goals over here, like, what's more important, right? So being a good son could be that much more important at that time. So, and for me, the other area, it's not like there's one other area, actually. I would say my physical fitness, I've had times in my life when I've really been dedicated to that, and I've just been allowing myself to enjoy being lazy lately. So it's another area that I'm experiencing as a compromise. And every day that I'm not living the way I know I could, I'm missing out on the level of honor that could be coming back to me. Pride, self-respect, as well as strength, growth, momentum, vision, and all the great, health, the increase in my health and energy levels. My inner conflict diagram is something that helps to keep you so present to the compromise, actually, that you just feel like taking action. But there was another area when we were talking before. Oh, it's actually, it's interesting that we're talking about it now. I've been thinking of getting back to my work, which I view as doing podcasts and videos and things like the video we're doing right now. So we're actually moving forward on that. But spending too much time contemplating doing it and getting lost in YouTube or my thoughts or dreams or whatever, and not moving forward on it like we are right now. But for me, those would be the three biggest. And for me, like, if I had to choose one of them, I would actually say this one. We're doing this video right now. That's most important. I would sacrifice the money and some short-term health to get some real momentum going here. And so right now I'm going to commit to a video, at least some output a day, some creation a day that moves me forward. in re-engaging with my work for the next 30 days to get some real momentum. And if I have to choose between running, doing my taxes and expenses and making money, this is most important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to me that when I'm feeling like what's more important, to actually make a decision, commit to something, you know, which is then I've committed to you and whoever watches the video. Anytime I go and check the YouTube comments, right, or have to face you, I'm going to be reminded of this commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's not comfortable.
Where's today's video?
Yeah, puts me in the hot seat.
Yes.
And that's if you want to live a life of greatness, if you want to live the life of a warrior, as someone who faces everything, avoids nothing, stands for his values and his people, then you want this feeling in your life. You want the drive, the pressure, the intensity to reflect back to you that the time is now for action. And so to come back to, your course, leadership and self-leadership, it's about responsibility, not as a concept, as an actual feeling. Like I feel responsible. If someone's going to do something, it's me, and it's now. So a question I'd be asking is like, how can I design my life in such a way that not I feel comfortable to keep on walking the path of compromise I am? Because a lot of us choose friends who allow us to be comfortable, just hang out and kind of. We choose guys. We hang out. A lot of times we choose to hang out with guys who are not going to call us on our bullshit. Who are not going to say, "Hey, man, what about your dream? What are you doing for your values?" And that's what I would say an ally is. Someone who listens for your greatness, sees your greatness, and calls you to live true to that, as opposed to a friend. So mostly we've designed lives to keep us comfortable.
Right.
And if what we really want is to be great with women, or great as men, or a great father, leader, entrepreneur, what have you, it'd be designing a life that has us feel like on the hot spot. The time for action is now, and it's me.
I like it. And to ask your friends, call you out on the compromise.
So to come back to your question, asking about like identifying our biggest values, and you mentioned like getting in touch with those instincts. Yeah. Like a friend of mine, I told you this story before, a friend of mine walked in one day and asked me, what do I really want? What my dreams? Because he only knew me for all my visions and my business and my work for society, That was all, at that time in my life, that's all I was thinking about. I was making sacrifices. I wasn't thinking about myself and what do I desire. And he made me really stop and think about it. And tears came to my eyes, and that's how I knew how deeply I really wanted something that I hadn't been honoring. And one of the things I spoke was this dream to travel the world and date beautiful women from all over the world. And a few years later, I've been doing that for the last 10 years. But sometimes it's just enough to really connect to that desire and what's most important to you. Really allow yourself the time to just steep in that. And, you're writing it down or telling someone else who can really listen to you is a great way to let the feeling, the true feeling arise, and then face the reality of like, what are you going to do about it? Am I compromising? And am I willing to, maybe, is there a sacrifice I'm willing to make? So to come back to your course, maybe the next step after they identify like the biggest compromise, are they willing to do what I just did, which is take these things that are also important to them? What am I willing to give up, to sacrifice, to honor this value?
It's a good exercise.
Yeah, so anyone watching this video, what's your biggest compromise in life right now? And what are you willing to sacrifice to be true to that value that you've been compromising, and honor it? And a real sacrifice isn't going to be giving up something that's easy. It's going to be giving up something that's also really important to you.